Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast, all in on love, lust, and connection. I am your host, Amanda McCoy Flanagan. My co-host, Ginny Oliva Smith, the amazing, wonderful, magical Ginny, had to work. I had the option of using an old show, something that I've already taped, or I could have told my sobriety story, which was the original plan last week. We had planned that was what we were going to do today because I am celebrating 18 years of recovery on July 30th. And I was going to tell my story, and then Ginny's going to tell hers in December when it's her anniversary. But Ginny texted me on Saturday afternoon, and she said, oh, man, shit's going down. She goes, I think we might need to get back to our roots for our show Monday. I thought she was talking about personally in her life. And I was like, well, what's going on? And then she told me about the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. So I was actually headed out. I was going to the supermarket, and I sat in my car and I watched that video that most of you probably saw already. And about maybe 40 seconds in, 50 seconds in, I don't remember, you can hear a scream, cry, guttural sound from a woman in the crowd. When I heard that, it evoked two things. One, it just went straight through. And I felt her pain. And I felt the pain of the world and the collective, especially our country. And I also was able to realize that pain, that scream, that cry symbolized and embodied the pain of our nation, the pain of our world. It kind of, for me, it like summarized, it encapsulated everything that this country has really been suffering with, forever, since the dawn of time. This show is not going to be about, the cracks in the foundation and the lies that this country was built on, frankly. But it really embodied the last 5 years, I would say, of real, even in 8 years. We've been struggling. We've been in a lot of pain. It's no secret. But I think what is a secret to many people, and the core of my work, which is why I decided to stay on today and do the show and keep this topic instead of talking about my sobriety, that would have probably been an easier way for me to go because I've never done a show alone. I usually have Ginny or I have a guest. The reason why I decided to talk about this today and to help you, guide you, try to lead you through this real frightening, harrowing time is because this is where my heart lies. This is where all of my work lies. This is my purpose. This is my mission. This is why I wrote my book. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel, you don't know me, you don't know anything about me, I wrote a book last year, came out. It's called Trust Yourself to Be All In, Save to Love and Let Go. And it's about healing our personal pain and unhealed energy so that we can help heal the collective. What happened Saturday did not happen in a vacuum. It did not happen by just one man deciding he hates Donald Trump and he's going to get up on the house and shoot him. It happened because the energy that we are allowing ourselves to vibrate as, and I say the word allowing, and I'll get to that in a minute, is responsible for creating these devastating, tragic events. Now, we can blame the government, we could blame this one, that one, whatever. But we are allowing it, right? Eleanor Roosevelt said, nobody can make you feel inferior. Nobody can make you feel anything that you don't allow yourself to feel. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. We are constantly bombarded with an onslaught of insanity, just insanity. To protect ourselves, to guard ourselves, to shield ourselves from that on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis, because there's news coming at us 24/7 everywhere we turn. And we're all addicted. We're all addicted to it because they figured out how to get into our chemicals and all that. We have a whole show on that called Down with the Sickness. That's an awesome one. Go watch it from last season. But we can do it. We don't have to succumb to the evils, the low-frequency energy, the negativity, the lies. We're all waking up a lot. And when Ginny and I talk about the fact that things are heating up and that things are going to get worse, this is what we're talking about. What happened on Saturday is what we're talking about. These events, whether it's man-made or natural disaster or whatever, is spirit is Mother Earth, is our higher selves trying to get our attention to say now is the time. The time is now to look inside, to look at your fears, to put them in perspective, to connect to your fellow brother and sister. We all have the same fears, everybody, and the same desires. We have a fear that those desires are not going to be fulfilled or they're going to be taken away. We each have a different way of achieving those desires. That's what makes us different, and that's what we need. That is necessary. When I talk about connection, I don't mean everybody sitting around a table having the same beliefs. That's easy. I've never been known to take the easy route. My therapist actually said to me once when I said to her, "Why is this happening? I can't believe this is happening again." She goes, "But would you have it any other way, Amanda?" And even though it can be a struggle sometimes, pain is a touchstone of all growth, especially spiritual growth. Now, I'm saying that we have to stay in the suffering at all. The amount of time you stay in it is optional. But there's a certain amount of grit and willingness we need to have to step into these uncomfortable spaces instead of checking out and escaping and being distracted. We need those times for release and relaxation and rejuvenation and restoration and all of that. But that cannot be the norm. If we check out, now I'm not saying we have to be watching news. I'm not even saying that. I'm not even talking about that. If we're checking out of ourselves, if we're checking out of checking in with ourselves, okay? If we're not saying, what's going on? What am I feeling? What is my reaction to what happened on Saturday, right? I bet many of you were triggered. I know I was. I was scared. I noticed yesterday, so this happened Saturday, today's Monday. On Sunday, my children were walking the dog. Typically, they just go walk the dog. I walk the dog with them. And I was aware enough to say, I'm afraid for my kids right now. We are being constantly triggered by having access and eyes on the violence. We used to not see this stuff, right? Back in the day, 80s, 90s, things would be censored. That 3-minute video that I watched on Saturday, you saw from beginning to end. The entire thing. You were in it. I was in it with those people. And although that's really hard, it's inspiring me to get on here today to try and help my fellow sufferers through a difficult time. It's not going to be like this forever. We need these times, these difficult times, to usher us into some people are calling the new earth, a time when compassion and love and connection and harmony is going to be the driving motivator. Greed, envy, lust, ego, those are going to take the back seat. And these other more beautiful attributes are going to start leading us. And what humanity is sort of forcing, in our country specifically, is we're going to need to be in a lot of pain before we make those changes. It just feels too good to let that ego go, right? Those feel-good chemicals of I'm right and you're wrong. And I'm going to fight with you until you hear me and tell me that I'm right, because that's going to make me feel even better. I'm going to get even more oxytocin, even more dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. All the feel-good chemicals come out to play when we feel right, and then when we think we're being proved right, somebody's telling us we're right. So fear feeds the ego. And how do we go about doing that typically? We get angry. We try to scare people with our anger. Maybe you'll hear me if I get angry enough. We are suffering from, I talk about it all the time, an epidemic of low self-worth. We're suffering from an epidemic also of emotional immaturity. Instead of just spouting off at the mouth, saying whatever you want to say, because we have little self-control, little discipline, little patience, total lack of humility. Instead of seeking those qualities and kind of quelling ourselves and tampering ourselves into a state of reasonableness, into a state of like a safe interaction where you actually hear somebody and they hear you, that takes work. That takes a lot of emotional maturity to do that. We don't want to work. We're lazy. I mean, look at how the rest of the world looks at us. We're known as like lazy, stupid Americans. Is that how we want to be known? Is that how you want to be known? And the government, the president, whoever is not going to change it. We the people, for the people, by the people. We can't just sit on our laurels and expect things to get better around us when a law changes. I guarantee you, I thought about this the other day. If Donald Trump and Joe Biden got on a stage in front of America tonight and hugged it out, we would still seek to be divided. They are not the solution. We are the solution. The reason why we would still seek that division is because it feels so good in some ways. But really, that's just the initial hit, right? That's the quick fix. Then what does it leave you with? It leaves you with regret. It leaves you feeling like shit. How did I say that? Why did I say that? I can't believe I hurt that person. I can't believe I did this. And now I'm alone and I'm isolated. I've pushed everybody away because I'm afraid of being vulnerable. So Brene Brown has this concept. It actually comes from a psychological phenomenon called the common enemy effect. She calls it common enemy intimacy. Okay, so the common enemy effect, which is what is driving the parades that I saw happening in different parts of the country yesterday, go Trump, those parades. That is called common enemy effect. It is when people bond over a common issue, even when they have nothing else in common. It's sort of like a collective mob mentality. The energy just gets exponential. It just grows when you're with people who feel the same way you do. But I would guarantee the majority of the people there, their intention was not Donald Trump for president because, you know, he's going to maybe make things better for me or for my life or whatever, with a positive effect or a positive intention. Guarantee you, those people were there to feed their rightness, to feed their common enemy effect. It's us versus them. The building and the building of an energy like that is taking us further and further and further away from the peaceful society of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we all want. So who is to blame here? It's not Donald Trump. It's not the shooter. It's not Joe Biden. It's not Obama. It's not the government. It's us. Because we are feeding into the system. We are allowing the system to flourish. The system is feeding off of us. We are setting it up. We are letting them know what we want. And they're giving it back to us. Now, I don't mean to be like preachy, but if we continue down this path, our children are going to suffer. Okay? I'm not saying the world is going to end. So I don't know if you guys know Baba Vanga. I just found out about her. She's a Bulgarian, I believe. Bulgarian psychic. She died a long, long time ago. And she said that the beginning of the end of the world is going to be in 2025. I actually think she's a few years late. I actually think it started a while ago. I actually think it started the minute the world started. I think the beginning of the end began the day the world started. Anyway, that's just logic, right? 2025, big war in Europe is what she's saying. World War III? I don't know. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take like another 1,000 years for the earth to become like uninhabitable. It's 1,000 years. That's 10, 11, 12 generations. It's not that long. It's not that far away. Now, I'm also acutely aware that things happen the way they're supposed to. I very often say, maybe it should just end now. Let's just end it all and start over. It seems pretty hopeless. People feel powerless, but we're not. But we're not. Why I chose to get on here today by myself and take this risk of vulnerability is to try to empower you to know that your greatest tool in your toolbox is healing your own energy, is getting honest with yourself to say, what's my part in this? How am I playing into this? Really honest, right? You may be an amazing person. I guarantee every one of you out there is, if you're choosing to listen to this. If you care enough, you're a great person. I know for me, I have to check my unconscious racism as a privileged white woman. I have to check my fear or my response, my knee-jerk reaction, or how I'm perceiving things. Is that really accurate? Where is that coming from? Where are my own limiting beliefs clouding that vision? And I have to be willing to take my glasses off and say, this is my own pain. This is my own stuff playing out. We do not perceive the world the way that it is. We perceive it the way we are, right? And you have so much more power than they want you to believe. I'm not saying sit in a circle and sing kumbaya, okay? I'm not saying that the world is ever going to be utopia. That's not realistic. We are meant to disagree. We cannot all agree. Innovation, progress, moving in the right direction, growing, changing, that all happens from different ideas. But can we be open enough to put our own fear aside, to listen to what somebody else might have to say and say, you know what? You might be right. There might be a kernel of truth to that. Maybe not the whole thing. Maybe I can't buy the whole thing, right? But maybe I could take what I need and leave the rest. Maybe I can incorporate some of what you have said into my own worldview, thinking about and really feeling how you feel. That's what empathy is. We are suffering from an epidemic of low self-worth, an epidemic of emotional immaturity, and an epidemic of a lack of empathy. And it's all coming from this need and this desire to protect ourselves, when very often there's nothing to protect yourself from. Going out in the world, I said to my daughter this morning, I was driving her to camp, I said, there was a woman walking on the street and she didn't, I looked at her to say hello, she didn't look at me. I said, I cannot believe how many people that are out in the world just ignoring each other, not even waving hello. Is it because we're so afraid of each other? Is it because we don't think the person will wave back? I'm not really sure if it's a fear of rejection or if we've just been so comfortable in isolation that it's more uncomfortable to bridge the connection. I really don't know. But I do know that the solution is unconditional self-worth and unconditional self-love that may waver at times, but is always there. It's a foundation that gives us the motivation to want to reach out to somebody else, to want to listen to what somebody else has to say, because what you say is not going to affect me so much. I'm not going to be as emotionally charged from what you say, so I don't have to hide from you. I don't have to hide. I don't have to not look at you. I don't have to not speak to you, because it doesn't matter what you say. Some of it I might agree with, some of it I might not. And I just keep going. I just keep moving on without being crowded by this anger and pain and fear and whatever, right? Thinking about myself. I remember during COVID, there was a great, I found this image online, and it was just a white square with a bunch of black words, and it said me, 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 me. And I said, that's the real pandemic. That's the real pandemic. That self-centeredness is at the heart of why we're divided, because certain people are afraid that things are going to be taken away from them, that they're not going to get certain things if other people get those things. That is a scarcity mindset. That comes from a fear of a lack of abundance, that there's not enough for me. If your energy is high frequency, you will attract whatever it is you need at that time. The fear does not have to be there when you're living in accordance with your highest good, the energy of your highest good, whatever that looks like, if that looks like connecting with your higher self, if that looks like connecting with spirit, God, universe, whatever it is. Through meditation is one way. Through breath work is another way. Through journaling is another way. Through just sitting quietly with yourself and giving yourself the love that maybe you never got, or even more love. It's unbounded, exponential, boundless expansion. That's one of the chapters in my book, of this beauty and this love and this growth and what's available to you. But when you are bogged down and heavy with all of this fear-mongering and all this stuff that's meant to divide us, it kills me when I see people who are intelligent and who are very passionate about certain things going on in the world, unable to see that they are feeding right into that system I talked about before, that they are feeding that division that is very purposefully put upon us. That's why this episode is called Divided We Fall. Do not be divided. If you saw that video that shook me to my core, if you heard that scream and it affected you, if you were triggered like so many of us are, like all the time, from seeing and hearing certain things going on in the world, I'm not saying to stay in that, but don't forget how you felt. Don't normalize these atrocities. We've become so desensitized to the atrocities, tragedy. I mean, there's got to be like a bigger word for like what is going on in this world. Humans are so adaptable. It's like one of these amazing things that humans are able to do. How often has life changed or something's changed? And yeah, it was maybe a tough road, but once you got there, you were like, oh, wow, like I can't believe I ever was like that or ever did that, right? Like we adapt because we have a survival instinct, right? I mean, I don't think I'm really teaching anything new here, right? I mean, this is common knowledge, but do not adapt to this. Do not adapt because it's easier to get through. Stay passionate. Stay fired up. I see you, people who are doing this work, who are fighting the good fight, whatever you want to call it. I don't even like the word fight. Who are leaders, who are healers. I see your exhaustion because I'm exhausted. I actually said to my husband before this, I said, I just want to go to the pool with you guys. I don't even want to do this today because I'm exhausted from staying in the game. But we have to stay in the game. Just like I said before, you can, of course, check out every now and then and do what you got to do for yourself. But don't ever fully check out of you. Stay in your game. Stay in your heart. Show up in this world time and time again consistently with love and with compassion. And do not respond and do not engage. Okay, so I put a post up on Saturday. It was in my story on Facebook and Instagram, and it said, if you are happy about what happened, what just happened, or you're seeking revenge instead of feeling deeply saddened and disturbed by this, then you have some major soul searching to do. And I got one response from a woman who was trying to bait me into this political debate. She said a couple times, if you could I'm not even going to say what it was. If you can, because I don't want to feed this, right, this division. But if you could vote for so-and-so, then you really don't care about people. If you Really, then the second time, if you really cared about people, then you wouldn't vote for so-and-so. And I just said, I don't do political debates. And she came back with one more, basically, you don't need to debate. You just need to vote the way I'm going to vote, is basically what she said. And I didn't respond. Okay. So when you're in those situations, here are some tips for you. When you're in these conversations and these situations where people are badgering you or it feels like they're harassing you or they just won't stop, like if you're not interested in having those conversations, give neutral statements. I mean, you just don't have to reply. That's like number one, just stop replying and it'll end, hopefully, or block them or whatever you need to do. But if you don't want to do that and you're too anxious to just say like, listen, I'm not interested in this conversation. Like, I don't want to have this conversation. You can say that. That's number one, best thing to do. But if you feel uncomfortable with that, here are a few things you could say. You could say, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that. So you're not putting them on the defensive. You're not agreeing with them. It's neutral, but you're not putting them on the defensive. Something else you might say is, I really don't know enough about this to have an intelligent conversation with you, right? That takes you right out of it. I really don't know. I really don't know. I just don't know. And the last thing you could say, which would really shut it down, or at least get them to stop badgering you, would be, you may be right. You may be right. Tell me more. Tell me more about how right you are. And then say, gotta go. Talk to you later. Or not. Give them what they want. Just give it to them. It doesn't matter. They're not going to hear you anyway. If you're dealing with somebody like that, they're not going to hear you anyway. So give them what they want. Leave the conversation. Know that you're not going to probably talk to that one again, but do not engage. Do not fight. It is our job as the leaders, as the healers, as the people who care enough about this, about humanity. Forget the country, humanity. This is so much bigger than who's going to be president and what borders we're putting up and what welfare we're giving out. And yeah, the drugs are a really, really, really big deal, right? People are dying. When the crime is a really big deal too, because people are dying, right? Wars are a big deal. People are dying. But what's above that, we are called to rise above that. Those are the symptoms of the disease that is eating us up from the inside out. The disease of fear, basically. The bigger picture to this is humanity surviving, humanity going forward, to keep those trees green so that my great-great-great-great-grandkids don't look out their window and see black and starve to death. And yeah, it's going to happen at some point, right? I mean, this is what, the fourth or fifth world? I think we're in the fourth world, I think. I don't know. But it doesn't have to happen yet. We've been here for such a short amount of time in the span of things. So I love this song. Never mind the name of the band, Porno for Pyros, Pets. If you guys know me, I love music. We'll make great pets. And the dinosaurs have done it much better than us. That's what they say. That we're really doing ourselves in. We're doing a really good job of doing ourselves in and blaming everybody else for it. So my wish for you is that you keep the human in humanity. Don't forget what it means to be human. Don't forget what it means to feel. Don't forget what it means to love and to have compassion and to have connection and to be vulnerable. So that common enemy effect I was talking about, boosting ourselves up and feeling all high and mighty because we're connected and bonded, that's growing at a really fast pace because we all feel isolated. When you bond with a group that makes you feel a part of and that you're right and keeps telling you you're right, that's just going to grow and grow and grow. And then when Brene Brown talks about the common enemy, intimacy, it's because then we don't have to be vulnerable. We don't have to hear things from other people who disagree with us to make us feel something. Like maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe I need to grow. Like maybe I need to heal. Like maybe I was looking at that with my own foggy glasses on. Don't fall into that. Please, try not to fall into that the best you can on any given day. It's going to happen. I take it down to like a base example. Gossip. Gossiping with people about another person in the name of, I care about them, so I'm going to talk about them because I want to help them. Very often that conversation devolves into talking shit or really not with their best intention in mind. But it turns into a bonding between the two people. So it starts out maybe about this third person, but it ends up about those two people. So when you're in this common enemy effect, this collective mob mentality, it's not even about the principles that you think you're fighting for. It's about you. It's about you and shoring up this ego and feeding this ego and feeling right and feeling belonging and connection. But it's not true. It's not lasting. True, lasting connection comes with love and compassion and empathy and vulnerability. We cannot run much longer. We can't. Time is just running out. It is necessary to go deep. It is necessary to contemplate. I've been told I think too much. I've been told I overanalyze too much. You know what? Good. Great. I love that about me. It's not even like something I try to do. I'm just born with it. I don't even know. And sometimes it's a curse. Mainly it's a blessing. But I contemplate. Like everything. Maybe too much sometimes. But it usually serves me because I do an after-action review or an in-action review. Right? When you practice this stuff long enough, your awareness grows to such great heights that like you could just be having an interaction with somebody and the way you're expressing yourself starts to feel uncomfortable. Or you just pick up on things, right? Quickly that it's like, I don't like that about me. And then you can switch gears like immediately. You could say, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Or that's really not what I think. You know, I used to feel like that's what I used to feel that that's who I was or that's what I thought, but I really don't anymore, right? Like you catch yourself being true to yourself the more that you practice this stuff. This is just going to take so much discipline and emotional maturity, like I said, on each individual. This is like an all hands on deck proposition. This is not a let me elect certain Congress people to make these decisions for me and make my life better. Because like I said, Trump and Biden could hug it out, high five tonight. We could have a third party system in place. We could have actually a three-party system like it's supposed to be, right? We could actually be hearing from RFK and the Independent Party. But we'd still seek somehow to find a way to keep fighting because we've gotten so used to it. We've gotten so used to it. It's serving a need. They have figured out how to convince us to engage in this stuff by social media too, by realizing, I think I may have said this in another show, these people probably sit around with like the best psychologists on the planet. How can we get into their brains and affect their chemicals and get them addicted to certain things? This is like breaking an addiction. This is like getting off heroin, quitting smoking cigarettes. Hardcore shit is what I'm trying to say. It's going to take not just your own human will and discipline, but it's going to take something greater. So I'm sober. I said that at the beginning of the show. I was in a meeting yesterday, and first word of our steps, of our 12 steps is we. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives were unmanageable. And I immediately thought we, the people. Right? I'm not a history, government, whatever buff, but I think we the people is what starts out the Constitution. We. Sit with that for like a minute. Not I, but we are responsible. We can only do it together. We must listen to each other. We don't have to agree. We don't have to condone. We don't have to accept. But we have to support each other wherever we are. Support does not mean understanding, condoning, or accepting. Support means being in somebody's corner. Quietly, maybe. Just being there for them. That's what support means, whether you agree or not. That's how relationship is made. That's how connection is made. You don't run away from every relationship in your life because you don't agree, right? Stick around. The only way we can do this is together. I'm a huge fan of the 12 steps of AA. Oh, I'm not supposed to say AA. I kind of mess that up sometimes. I'm kind of over the whole anonymous thing. I'm sure Bill W. would be fine with that. Because it's saving lives, really. Why am I going to keep this thing a secret? And there's many other ways to get sober, but my preferred method that I've seen work for myself for the past 18 years, and I've seen work for millions of people, it's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I always say they need to teach it in kindergarten. The principles, yeah, we should live by the steps, right? Admit we're powerless, that our lives are unmanageable. Oh my God. Is this manageable? This is so unmanageable. Came to believe that a power than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We've been trying to do it on our own for a while. How's it working out for us? It's not. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Now listen, him, he, she, whatever, they, it, universe, source, higher power, doorknob. That's the thing in the rooms. And make that your higher power, the doorknob, the room, the people, group of drunks, God, whatever. Make a decision that you're going to, well, that you believe that something can help you, and then that you're going to allow something else to help you. Get out of your own way. And there's no end to this. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm still in my way all the time. I'm probably getting in my way right now speaking to you guys. I'm probably doing something that I shouldn't be doing. But I keep going back. I keep trying. Fourth step, taking a fearless and searching moral inventory of ourselves. Really looking at yourself. Really looking at yourself. What am I doing? How am I living? Am I making people feel loved, or am I making them feel like shit? Am I using fear tactics? Am I trying to only be heard and not hear others? St. Francis prayer. That's our 11-step prayer. Seek to console rather than to be consoled. Seek to understand than to be understood. Seek to love than to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying of self that we are born to eternal life. I say eternal light, that we are born to eternal light. Because that's what the end game is here, right? That's the reason. That's what we're trying to get. That's what I'm and Ginny and my guests and people that are in this world, and thank you all for being here, doing this work with me, supporting me, and that we could support each other. I love it. That's our end game, is to become light beings, is to raise our frequency. And I know this color isn't great. I know I'm not supposed to be sitting in front of a bright window, but I'm sitting in front of it because it's light and it's green and it's nature. Step 5, getting honest with another human being. I can't even think of the right words, but it's about taking that fourth step, the stuff that you found in that inventory of yourself, and taking it to another human being and to God and sharing that. Being open and willing to some feedback as well. That's helpful for me. Not everybody does that. I personally enjoy the feedback because then it helps me to look at myself and say, yeah, is that true? Maybe, maybe not. Toss it out the window, but I'm still going to be open and willing enough to listen and investigate. Step 6, became entirely ready to remove our shortcomings or defects of character. I call them survival traits, flaws, stuff in us that we needed at a certain time to survive, really as children that we don't need now. Really make that decision to become ready to remove that. A lot of this has to just do with decisions and follow through and discipline. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. So when you see that, in that minute, okay, you don't have to do this in a 30-minute Zen Buddha meditation where you're floating and levitating. You don't need to do that. In a conversation with somebody, when you're like, yeah, this shortcoming is coming up and I really don't like it. I really don't like that about me. Like, can you take that away? Whatever I believe in, can you please take that away? That's the solution, people. Turning to something greater, a higher power, like I said, whatever you want to call it, that's going to actually do this for you. I was working with a sponsor yesterday, and we were rewriting her 3rd step in her own words. And I had said one of them means help me to get rid of these character defects. And then I said, no. Get rid of these character defects. Do it for me. Make me, change me, move me. You don't have to do it yourself. We've been taught we have to. And when we do it ourselves, we like that. Again, more chemicals released. Look how great I am. I did it myself. Yeah, it feels good. Achievement is good. And I'm not saying you should throw your own will and gumption and action and whatever out the window. No. But when we're up against what we're up against, isn't it time to try something different? Is it worth it? Is it worth not trying something different that might work in exchange for this sinking ship that we're on that's going under pretty quick? Feels like a no-brainer to me. Step 8, made a list of all those persons we hurt. That's a good one. Think of your actions over the past 5-10 years as things have really started to heat up. Who do you need to make amends to? Then go make those amends. That's 9. 10, continue to take personal inventory. And when we were wrong, promptly admit it. Not if we were wrong, when we were wrong, because we're all going to be wrong at some time. Promptly admit it. Don't sit with it for 3 weeks. Promptly, immediately. I can't sit with things anymore. If I know that, like, just thinking about it makes me anxious. If I know that something is not right and that I hurt somebody, I immediately have to take care of it. Yes, it's for them, but it's also for me to set me free so that I don't have to carry that around anymore. And then I can start to believe and know that I'm a good person because I'm willing to do these things. Being willing to do these things shores up my self-worth and my self-love back to the solution. The unconditional self-worth and self-love, which does not mandate and force us and dictate that we act in these ways that is creating this disconnection and this division. Step 11, prayer meditation. Sought to improve my conscious contact with God as I understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. Power to carry that out. You have the power. You have the power to invoke this thing. That's your power. To invoke it, to bring it into you, and then to let it out. And then to be it. To be it. That's your power. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we practice these principles in all our affairs. There's another part to that, I think. But take it everywhere. Make it your new you. Have this period of intense pain, growing pains, growth, whatever you want to call it, that's going on in this world all around us, and use it for good. Turn your pain into purpose. Turn your pain into peace. Turn your grief and your loss and your fear, let it motivate you, let it empower you, let it push you to make a difference in this world. None of us single-handedly is going to save the world. The world probably doesn't even need saving. It eventually, like I said, it's going to go. But how are we living while we're traveling that road to the end? That's the question. How do you want to show up? Do you want to suffer through? Do you want to not like yourself? Do you want to make it even harder for yourself? Or do you want to maybe make it just a touch more pleasant for yourself and for others? It's just so important. Not saying that we have to be just love all the time, love, love, love. No, that's not realistic. I say it all the time. We're human beings on a spectrum of emotion. You're going to have stuff come up. And you're most likely not going to act the way that you would like to act all the time. But if you can't love, can you at least tolerate? I don't love that. It's another recovery thing. Love and tolerance. I don't love the tolerance. I feel like tolerating is still sometimes just like putting up with. Comes with like a chip or like a negative thing. But sometimes that's our only option. Sometimes if all we can do is tolerate, then tolerate. And while you're tolerating, if you possibly could crack that door of willingness open just a smidge to say, let the light in, let the love in, change my heart, fix my eyes, fix my ears, change me. A woman said to me years ago, bless them, change me. I love that. Bless them, change me. Because whatever's going on that we're unhappy with, it's, again, this is acceptance prayer. Recovery is amazing. Like, even if you're not an addict, go do some research on recovery, because the stuff that we talk about, the prayers, the principles, the literature, it is so helpful for life. It's a way of life, a design for living, we call it. The acceptance prayer. If there's anything wrong with the world around me, there is something wrong within me. There's something that needs to be changed within me. What is it? What is the thing that needs to be changed in you? If you just cannot accept something, if you just cannot tolerate what is going on with you, this is why we're here. This is why you have incarnated into this life right now. Most of us are old souls. There's some newbies here. But you decided to come back to do this work. And that work is going to look different, right? However, wherever you're called in your career or whatever, right? But at the base essence of it is to heal your soul, to heal your wounds, most likely from past lives that have been brought forward, to learn certain lessons. Are you going to get to heaven and be proud of yourself? Or are you going to be laying on your deathbed with regrets? Because of an election? Yeah, I understand what's underneath that election. I understand what people are afraid of. I get it. And I understand that my life is a little bit more insulated from it. I totally get that. But the bottom line is, you can be happy, joyous, and free, and loving, and in connection, and feel like a good human being, even with that stuff going on around you, or even to you. You can be that regardless of the issues going on in your life and the issues around you. It's what rising above means. And we each have a responsibility to do that. If you want to reach out and chat and talk, and I probably have a lot of other stuff that I could help you through. If you have specific issues, email me, Soul Rising Podcast, SOL Rising Podcast @gmail.com. If you're going to reach out and tell me how wrong I am, I don't want to hear it. I'm just kidding. Reach out, say whatever you want to say to me. I hopefully will be able to exemplify everything I said today. So, all right. I love you guys. This was very interesting doing this solo show. And if you've hung in with me this long, thank you very much. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.